Welcome to New Broker, the podcast dedicated to providing insights and inspiration for building a new broking business.
Hello and welcome back. It's Annie Kane, your host for today, talking to a new-ish broker, I'm going to say, in this week's episode as we're talking to Julian Choo from Loan Market. Now, you may not have yet met Julian. He's a Sydney-based broker here in New South Wales, and he's been broking for about 4 years, which is why I say newish broker. And in this podcast, what we really wanted to do was pick his brain about how he got into broking, how he's been growing his broking business, and what he's got planned for his broking career. So welcome, Julian. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Good, thank you, Annie. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks for coming into the studio here in North Sydney to talk to me about your journey. Now, we've met a few times at our different events at the Advisor, and I've had a chat with you as well for different stories we've written and things. But for anyone who's not had the pleasure of meeting you, Julian, how and why did you become a broker?
Yes. Well, in terms of how, I think it was really a family thing, growing up, influence from mum and dad. Mum was really a real estate agent back in Singapore.
Oh, yeah.
And just, attending the opens with her growing up, that kind of really got me into the whole real estate industry. And when I first came over to Melbourne, when I did university, I actually had a little side hustle selling off-the-plan apartments to my fellow international students.
Wow. A side hustle selling off-the-plan apartments. I mean, that's quite a big side hustle for a uni student.
Yeah, I'd say so. Most of my friends were kind of trying to find gigs at the local cafes and restaurants.
McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just straight on to, all right, where can I kind of do what my mum does, as a side hustle? And went to do a Cert 4, I think, in real estate. I think that's what they call it. So that whole off-the-plan thing, projects, selling dreams in the air, right, that are 2-3 years into completion. That's kind of where I got started in the industry. And once I graduated, I struggled to get the permanent residency as an international student.
Yeah.
So I couldn't join the big four. I mean, I did finance at uni, so it wasn't an option to go to the accounting firms or the banks. So I started off in CBRE Resi projects, residential projects.
It's a big commercial real estate services group,
Yes.
CBRE, yeah.
And they had big projects. I think in Melbourne, you would see the likes of, Melbourne's developmental sites are extremely big, the government, the council doesn't regulate as hard. So there's plenty of projects to go around. So that's kind of where I started. Moved to Sydney a couple of years after graduation. And by the time I got my permanent residency, my friend roped me into Westpac.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm kind of like a reformed real estate / banker.
Yeah.
Which is like, looking back, it's like the perfect combination of experience for what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, okay, came full circle around.
Yeah. So you were at Westpac for what, 4 years before you became a broker?
Yeah, 4 years in Westpac. Myriad of experiences there, which was really great because I kind of had the opportunity to play in, the space of the simplest of things, like what a personal banker would do, right? So your credit cards, your term deposits and all that jazz, all the way up to, I'd say, relatively more complex space, right? I'm not talking institutional investment banking, but more like, say, private wealth. Seeing the flow of funds across the different layers of trusts, with our high net worth family offices. And somewhere in between where I did business banking and kind of helping out with, or even my first role as a property finance assistant relationship manager. So looking at transactions for developmental sites, right? North Rocks, 20 townhouses. Yeah.
So after you had your banking career, what was it that made you think, actually, I want to do broking instead and go out to become a broker?
When you're a banker, you only have one set of policies to work with, right? But when you're a broker, you have the whole panel. And, you basically find your way to provide value and work in your preferred space. So I found that really interesting. And as I said earlier, mum was my inspiration for real estate. Dad was my inspiration for entrepreneurship. So he never worked a day in his life for someone else. He started his own printing company in his garage. And it was just zero entrepreneurship, right? Trying different things and all that. So I think broking kind of showed that to me that, hey, this is an industry where kind of like real estate, you just have to put in the hard work and you can own your own dream.
Yeah.
That was really what it was for me.
So when you decided you were going to become a broker,
Yes.
you talked to your own personal broker
That's
and
true,
were
yeah.
like, what does this look like? Did you kind of then go and just work for them immediately? Did you ever consider kind of starting out on your own?
Yes. So, when I spoke to him, the question was, do you have your own source of clients? And I said, I don't want to be in a position where I'm struggling to find an ex-client. So I think I should kind of get out there and learn the ropes first. And that then led me on to reach out to a recruitment agency. And the options I were provided was, I could remember clearly back then, was it with Shaw Financial, with Theo Chambers, where it's more of like a team of brokers where you jump in, they plug you in and off you go? Or would it be an opportunity like with Loan Market? And at that time I was speaking to Daniel Pym in Double Bay, where he would basically be my mentor. You know, I would learn off the ropes. I learn the ropes from him and then see where we go from there. But then learning the ropes of a top 100 broker like Daniel Pym, I felt like would be the more conservative and better way to build my experience in the broking space as my first role out. So that's basically what I did. Because there's a whole range, a whole structure of what you could do when you're fresh out as a broker.
Yeah, so
it's
you kind of
difficult.
thought, you always had in your mind you wanted to own your own business, but you were like, I'll start off with someone who's a top broker. Low Market Double Bay as well, a very successful franchise. So, you know,
Got really
great,
lucky
yeah, a
there.
great one to start with
Yeah.
Daniel Pym's business over there. And of course, the other benefit being in Double Bay, high average loan value too. So that's a good one to start with. So you started off and were you a salaried broker? Were you doing the loan processing? Like what was your first year looking like?
So heading in, I was pretty much a junior broker.
Yeah.
All right. So just learning the ropes because it was the first role in broking. I came from a bank where I only knew one set of policies, whereas now I'm coming in. How do we strategize this? How do we structure this across the different lenders? So just credit wasn't an issue. It was just understanding how to pick the lender.
Yeah.
All right. So learning that was really interesting, figuring out the different options, the different policies. Salaried broker is where I started.
Yeah. And how did you figure those out? Like what would your advice be for someone who's just starting out in terms of getting across all of the different policies and options out there?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you need to understand, of course, if you're a first home buyer, understanding the grants. If you're self-employed, understanding which banks offer good self-employed policies. Obviously, you have low doc options, you have one-year financials and stuff like that. So it's just a numbers game. You just have to get in there, be in a situation whereby you can deal with volume. And the only way I feel is probably working for someone else, having a good mentor.
Yeah. And so you started out kind of, I'm assuming with resi mostly.
Well, no, we did a bit of everything. At some point in time, even just half a year in, I was suddenly the SMSF go-to in the team. I think it's probably just because there was just too many things that Dan's business was dealing with, and we had different people specializing in different areas.
Yeah.
So SMSF was my thing at some point in time.
And I guess as well, having dealt with lots of people using trusts anyway before when you were at Westpac, it kind of, you already had that experience, easy to kind of slip into, I'd imagine.
Exactly.
And then you talked as well about, obviously, one of the hardest things as a new broker is finding your leads. So working for a brokerage that already has an established business, they can kind of provide those leads to you. They can help you get your first deal through the door quite quickly, I'd imagine as well. Was it a long time before you settled your first loan? Can you remember?
So it's interesting. As a salaried broker, the structure was really good because obviously Dan was the first touch point. He would have that sale, the initial triage call, let's just say, and he would sell the service and his value. And then he would do a handover. Hey, my colleague Julian's going to take care of you.
Yep.
I'll obviously still be here to answer any questions, but here's your kind of like your account manager, right?
So then after a couple of years at Low Market Double Bay, you decided, right, I'm ready to start my own business and become the entrepreneur like my dad. How long was it before you actually decided to make the leap and go out on your own?
So whenever I look back and think about who are the people who brought me to where I am today in this space, obviously Dan's right up front and center. But another gentleman who joined the business after me came in as a contractor. So his name is William Benham, and he's actually a co-founder of Front Financial, who's also a trailblazer at the moment. Will came in as I said, as a contractor, and I was just sitting there, just literally looking at him. I'm like, what is this structure he's on? That entrepreneurial part of me started to go, I need to get on what he's doing, because he's building his own business within Dan's business. And I just kind of felt like, as a salaried broker, I felt like I was kind of getting eaten away day by day because I'm building up someone else's dream, not my own. So when he came in, it really just ignited this spark. And I had a chat with Dan. I'm like, I think I need to get into this contractor model. You need to stop paying me a salary. Get that drug off me, right?
Yeah.
And Dan was really, really nice about it. And he's like, hey, it's not easy. I even spoke to Tommy from Erskineville and Salmina, who's also a really senior member of the team. And they're like, it's harder than it looks. And everyone around me was just basically saying, calm your horses. You've only been here 12 months, But yeah, if not for Will, I wouldn't have then gone on to the contractor's structure, which was for probably another 12 months before I then said, hey, Dan, I want to start my own franchise.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And so now you've got your own business, but you're not actually a shopfront. You haven't taken out a sort of, the Loan Market franchise store. Yes. You're kind of doing it as your own brand. What does that look like? Because I think like a lot of people, when they think of Loan Market, probably think of the storefronts and the locations like Low Market Double Bay, for example. So what happens when you become just a Loan Market broker? Do you still base yourself in a specific area, or do you kind of do everything?
When I spoke to a couple of successful brokers around the space, we're talking post-COVID, all right? COVID really transformed the industry because broking is something where it's not like a real estate agent. It's bricks and mortar, right? You need to show your clients around properties. You need to be geographically based. Broking is purely digital now. Like there's so many businesses that pretty much have 100% of their work totally remote. I could be a digital nomad and still run a successful business. And at that time, what showed me the way forward was, I have to say, my previous broker as well. So this is Jordan Bay from Inside Finance.
Oh,
yeah. He didn't have a shopfront either. He was basically mobile, and he led a massive offshore team, right? So that was kind of the dream, because I didn't want to be forced to kind of rock up to an office every day. And if I can keep things mobile and my team mobile, it just helps. I feel that's just the dream of how to run a business. So in my vision, it was never part of having there was no part of it where I had like a shop, right? My dream was just to have a team where we can catch up and a massive offshore team, basically, right? Yeah. Just to let us focus on the clients. And literally, I like to give a funny analogy. I don't know where I pick it up from, but dropping the M&Ms in the sales funnel. So we just keep putting the stuff in and let the team get it out, basically. I think it's what they call the one-touch broker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to talk to you a bit more about how you structure the team and what that looks like, and we'll get into that just after this break.
Sure.
So, Julian, you were talking there about having a team, and I think this is one of the big things that lots of new brokers have to think about when they're first starting out. Typically, they'll be like normally on their own because obviously you don't necessarily have all the funding behind you to have a big team when you're just starting out in broking. But as you get more busy and you get more business coming through, it can kind of be necessary. How many people do you have in your team now, and what does the structure look like?
Yes. So I am currently running a sole supported broker model. So I've got 4 in the team at the moment. And they're basically specialists in various a section of the process, so that we all really good at what we do. So the 4 of them, I've got an appointment setter because I've recently started a full paid ads lead funnel online. And we can talk more about that later. Then obviously I can never get these names right, but I'm just going to call data entry person, right? It's fancy stuff like customer service associate, customer service manager and all that. But let's just get straight to what they do.
Data entry.
Data entry.
Yeah.
And post approval, right? So before the deal is set up and after the approval is given.
That's the same person, or those 2 people?
Yes, that's the same person. So they take care of the data entry and they take care of taking the approved application all the way to settlement and beyond, right? So post-settlement care as well. And then I have 2 people helping me set up the loans. And they're actually kind of like my credit analysts as well because they do my servicing piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find the client and they pretty much do everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you mentioned there about post-settlement care, and I just want to dig into that a little bit as well. So once the loan is settled, what does that person's role do? Is it sort of repricing or like helping them set up their first repayments? Like what does that look like?
Well, spot on. So first touch after settlement would be, making sure that they're comfortable and everything's set up for the first repayment to go through. And then we'll also touch base every 6 months. We used to do it once a year. We call it the annual review. But there's just been so many movements in rates.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can't now do it once a year if rates drop like 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm rate sensitive, which a lot of our first timers are, 6 months is kind of just right. Because if you do it every month or every quarter, there's nothing we can do for you, right? Yeah, too much. So 6 months, we call it customer success review. That's when we reach out to their current lender and we do a kind of like a rate review.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned there about, again, the generating of the leads and building your own business, which was such a core part of you wanting to go out on your own. So now you already talked about paying for ads, but before we get into that, I want to talk about how you actually find your own business. And I know that with your experience in real estate, kind of a lot of what it sounds like you were doing is now feeding into how you work as a broker, because I think you do quite a lot of open homes.
Yes.
Walk me through how that works and how you set that up.
Loan market, coincidentally, is also, as we know, owned by the White family and very closely linked to the Ray White brand. So when I was in Dan's business, there was a lot of interaction with the real estate agents, and that's where I kind of started with the weekend open homes. I realized a big difference between the brokers and the real estate agents is that they're both people who like to hustle, but I reckon the brokers just probably don't want to work the weekends. Yeah, so it's not very common, I feel, to see the brokers out at the open homes. We do see them, but I don't think it's very common. But I felt like, hey, if you're a new broker, you're trying to find new business, it's going to be a little bit more challenging if you're speaking to people who already have great relationships with their broker or their banker, all right? So where is that space where we can start afresh, all right? And that would be our first timer space, or a second timer who, is still with a bank, So the weekend open homes are great where if you find areas where the first home buyers or first timers are, that's just an obvious answer where to build your client base.
How did you do that though? Because I can imagine some real estate agents wouldn't take too kindly to having loads of brokers. Like, because if everyone did it, obviously they're going to be overwhelmed with brokers and have no actual prospective home buyers. So did you reach out to the real estate agents first? Did you just kind of like try a few ones first and then see who you like? Like, how did you actually set that up?
Yeah, great question. It's all about. It's back to who you deal with. It goes back down to who you know, like, and trust, and how do you get someone to know, like, and trust you. Hitting up a real estate agent on a cold call, that's how do I put it? That's something where anyone can do, right? But it's probably going to have the lowest conversion. So what I found helpful was when you actually do a deal and we've assisted the client to find a property. So once they've done that, that real estate agent on the contract of sale, that conveyancer on the contract of sale, two conveyancers, you got the vendor solicitor, you got the purchaser solicitor. And if you then have built the relationship with the client, the purchaser you just got approved for, their accountant, their financial planner, like these are gold, all right? Because you're not going in cold. Hey, we've just helped this client of ours, our mutual client. That's the best warm opener there. So what I did was then reach out to real estate agents that assisted our clients in securing their home or investment, and I went from there. So that warm touch is way better than hitting up someone cold who really doesn't want to be talking to you.
Yeah. So once you got their permission to come to the open homes, what happens then? Do you just sort of stand at the front door and go, hey, I can give you finance? Do you like hand out business cards? Like what do you do once you're there?
So if you're going to add value at an open home, what I found most useful is kind of, how do I put it? It's more, I don't want to, it's kind of like creating doubt with their current finance, all right? And why I say that is because more and more banks are jumping onto this system-generated pre-approval bandwagon. So if you're holding on to a pre-approval that's not what I call fully assessed, then if I were you, I wouldn't be ready to go to an auction because there's just too many conditions on there in terms of what happens after. Because once you sign a contract, you want the lowest risk to getting that formal approval. Really, the only risk there should be the property you're purchasing. Is that acceptable security to the lender? There shouldn't be anything else, all right? But if you're holding on to a system-generated pre-approval, then the assessor only comes on for the first time after you sign the contract. And I feel like that's something that I wouldn't want. I want a fully assessed pre-approval such that after I sign a contract, the only thing the assessor has to look at is the valuation report generated acceptable as security to the bank. So that is one of the things that helps me get engaged with the client at the open home. Do you have a fully assessed pre-approval? The other thing is also, do you have a good broker you're working with? Right? If you're a first timer, highly likely there's a big chance you've got a pre-approval from a bank. And if you're pre-approved by the bank, hey, there's so much more value I can provide as a broker because I think the latest data does speak to about nearly 80% of loans being written through the third-party broker channel. And that's because of the value we can provide, all right? The banker you deal with has a myriad of experiences. There could be someone fresh in the job, doesn't own any property. It could be someone who's obviously very experienced, but that's a risk. Whereas if you're dealing with a broker that has a great digital footprint, great Google reviews, award-winning, you're probably going to get someone who's knows what they're doing, hopefully owns property, a couple of steps ahead of you, knows how to help you structure it and find you the best deal. So it's just hands down, with the broker value.
So you're at open homes and helping people kind of understand what pre-approval really means and what a fully assessed deal means. You're also kind of being like, are you able to, you happy? Do you have a broker? Are you happy with your broker?
Exactly.
Outside of the open homes then, you mentioned earlier about Google ads or ads that you're paying for. What does that look like?
It takes a big budget to kind of partner up with a great marketing agency. And I feel if done right, it's really a great way to generate leads. But more importantly, you need to niche. Because if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, right? So finding your niche and then finding the right marketing agency that can help you speak to your niche is just gold. And I think we've found that. We just need to tweak, because I'm literally a month into this and I'm just being slammed with the quantity, and the tweaking is what's important now.
So what's your niche that you're marketing yourself as?
Yeah, so I'd say the first home is probably what I'm doing, and that's just compounding the results of what I've had in my first financial year. So that niche speaks to people who don't have established relationships so far, and that's where I can kind of provide value and really hold their hand across the journey.
So how do you then, with the M&Ms going into the sales funnel,
Yes.
how do you then eat them, if that's the case, if that's the end of the analogy? Like, how do you actually go from, you've got this lead come through
Yes.
from a paid ad, how do you then convert them?
Yes. So lead comes in. We need to qualify the lead. That's where my appointment setter comes in. And we're working on refining the process, but currently all they do is go through a couple of questions and understand, what where the client sits in terms of their deposit and their borrowing capacity and any significant debts, right? So once that is ascertained and we can help them, right? Because plenty of first-home buyers, they could come through with a deposit, but they don't have the income to get what they want. Everyone's got some kind of income. So it's not about whether you can qualify for a loan or not. It's about whether your income matches to what you're looking to purchase. So once that ticks off, I then come into the piece and we go through a whole heap of stuff. So I pretty much am all about over-servicing, over-delivering. It's all about value, care and value. So that's where I come in, and when I say care and value, I'm talking about just, demonstrating that, hey, I can help you. I'm a couple of steps ahead, and this is what I'm obsessed with. And it just, gets me so excited to help you get started on this journey. And value is showing them what's the best structure for you? What grants are available? Where can we get the best deal? And I do that through a screen share. And we go through so many things. By the end of that session, they're just blown away. Like, whoa, this is the kind of guidance and coaching that I can receive if we proceed.
Yeah.
So once that is done, then that's pretty much it. It's a process of sorting, because I'm dealing at a scale of so much volume where the conversion's lower compared to the other end of broking with your high net worths and, doctors and very complex business structures. I'm dealing at the other far end. So the conversion's not as high because people may not be ready yet. Even if they are ready, maybe they want to do a bit of shopping around.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to convince. This is my value. Would you like to proceed, right? So it's more of a sorting process for me at the moment, and I need to sort quick. Like, tell me yes or no, right? I don't have time to kind of try and convince you.
And it's a super common, I think, issue that so many new brokers have when you're generating new leads is being like, how do you sort the wheat from the chaff? And like, how do you kind of ensure that you are converting or getting your conversion rate higher? And that, of course, comes with time and as your existing clients will then refer on. So as we know, those are kind of the strongest leads. But you need to get business from somewhere. So it's great to see you trying different things and trying to get business from different areas. We're going to take a quick break here, Julian, but when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about your future plans for the business, how you expect to grow in the coming year and the years ahead, and what sort of challenges and opportunities you see in the broking industry. And we'll get into that just after this. So looking, Julian, at how you plan to grow this financial year, have you got anything coming up that you're hoping to do that's new? Are you diversifying? Are you doing anything with the business that you're really excited about in FY26?
Yes, I think really honing in on what I spoke earlier in relation to going online. Because as a broker, you want control of your numbers. Had a great first year, but to then compound the win and take it to the next level, to me at this stage is pretty much going online. So the plans moving forward would be to really understand how to talk to my niche. And once I know for sure every dollar, this is $5 I can make, then it's just, scaling from there. Yeah. So if $1 gives me 5, then I'll just put 10 to get 50. But obviously, easier said than done. You got to have the right back office to support that. Otherwise, the wheels will start falling off the wagon.
100%.
So it's a very exciting financial year ahead because we're expecting. Me and my wife are expecting.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And that's coming through pretty much mid-financial year. So there's a lot we need to get done before I kind of want to get into, my dream is to work on the business, not in it. And it's so, satisfying seeing the different milestones across the last financial year. And I can talk about the fancy stuff like the Google reviews, the awards, and the 80 mil we wrote. But I think it's the simple things that I ticked off that really shows me that I'm heading towards where I want to be, which is letting go of data entry. Like that simple fact is just taking brokers so long to do. And if you speak to any broker with a team, they will tell you hire before you need it, right? It's okay if they sit there half the time with nothing to do. That's perfectly fine. Just go and get your first assistant, all right? That was the first milestone I took. The second milestone was letting go of serviceability. Wow, that feeling. Talk to any broker. If you're able to let go of serviceability and not touch a calculator anymore, how good is that? And that's my second big milestone, right? Now the third one would be letting go of loan writing. And I wanna have so much volume that I need a loan writer to come in, right? And once I let go of that, then I can just work on the business. Mm-hmm. How do we be the next Hormozi, just doing the podcasts, doing the interviews and just doing the marketing and building relationships. So that's where I want to be next.
Yep.
So I'm a builder. I like to see and build things. So that's definitely where I want to go.
So looking at, becoming more of a sort of CEO of your own business rather than kind of the broker in the business.
Yes.
Do you have any targets for yourself in terms of the business, I guess, in terms of what volumes you want to be hitting or what kind of volume of business, whether that's dollar value or number of loans you want to be reaching?
That's a great question. And this is a podcast, so just saying it out loud it's really going to help me push for it. I want to get on that top 100 list. So I think you probably need to have at least what was it last I saw? 120 or 130?
Something about that,
Yeah. So I think that's the goal this financial year.
Okay, awesome. Well, exciting.
Yeah.
And that's, amazing for considering you're running your second year of running your own business?
Second financial year as a
year, yeah.
franchisee.
Yeah, so that'd be super exciting. And then when you look more broadly, I guess, at the broking industry and what's been happening, there's been so much change over the last few years. I mean, you've only been broking for 4 years, but even in that time, a lot of change happening. What do you sort of see as the biggest opportunities in broking, and what do you see as the biggest challenges? Like, are there any kind of issues in industry you wish you could fix?
Yes.
So maybe opportunities first, just to start on a positive note.
Yeah, I think opportunities are obviously everywhere. But if I had to pick a specific example, I feel as a broking industry, there's always that toing and froing with the banks, right? Obviously, we hear news about banks wanting to prioritize their proprietary channel, but then the broker value is just so significant. Of course, online and digitization is taking away certain more basic tasks, but at the end of the day, people want to deal with someone, as I said before, they know, like, and trust. It's one of the biggest decisions in your life. You might do it a few times, but you need to make sure you're dealing with the right people. So that's not going anywhere. For brokers to maximize that, you really need to show that you care. It goes back down to basics. Yeah, so plenty of opportunity there to deliver more value than what you'd find online or through a bank.
Yeah. And in terms of the challenges, is there anything that you'd like to see fixed, like any big issues you see in the broking industry?
I'll speak to my space, my niche. I feel that as a first-home buyer, you're dealing with a selling agent that is working for the vendor. So very, very often, more than not, if you don't have a buyer's agent, your broker's pretty much your coach, all right? So I feel like as a broker in this niche, it's really a two-prong approach. Yes, you gotta make sure the finance is packed down, but just providing that guidance as well, which is where I feel my next big project will be, buyer support or getting like we're working on like a accelerator program. And that's kind of helping our first home buyers with certain packs where they, at every step of their journey, especially after pre-approval and getting a contract signed, they're pretty much left alone.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult journey. And depending on the experience of the broker, it could mean that the purchaser may never find a home because they're just constantly struggling keeping up with prices changing or process where, purchase guides not really being what the property sells for, stuff like that. So just giving a better guidance in this space, I feel, is definitely where the opportunity is for us.
Okay. And then when you think about, I guess, also being a business owner, a lot of it is kind of, a lot of hard work, a lot of long nights, I imagine, trying to do everything from thinking about hiring or thinking about where you're going to get your next lead from or going through serviceability or going through credit policy. What do you do, though, to kind of take a step back from all that and take a breath? Like, how do you unwind and de-stress?
Yes, I'm a big follower of personal development. That is my doom scrolling on my social media. And Robin Sharma's, talk about the 5 a.m. club and stuff like that. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m., but just getting up early to start your day, having a routine and getting into the habit of that routine is really important. And what I do is a quick shadowboxing session on my virtual goggles, which is very weird. I love it because there is licensed music that I can kind of box to, and that just gets me into a quick sweat. So find your thing, sweat for 20 minutes, all right? And then I go for a quick cold shower, and it's just that act of doing something that you don't really look forward to, but you do it anyway. I think that trains your mind. And then coffee, and I kickstart, right? So just having that exercise, I feel just recharges me. That simple act of 20 minutes every morning just resets. And I also learned that from Dan Pym and his team. They would always hit the gym at 7 a.m. before they go into the office. And that's been a big game changer as well.
Yeah, good discipline as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you think about, if you were going to do your journey all over again, if you were going to start out as a broker again, what advice would you give yourself, or what advice would you give new brokers?
Definitely the first thing to do, and I think I luckily got that right, is finding the right mentor. Again, back to Mr. Dan Pym. Just really learning the best industry practices, right, at every step of this journey. Once you get that right, you're gonna save yourself heaps of hard paths, making mistakes and all that. And I think the second thing would be finding your niche. When you speak to a very specific group of people, that's when you're going to be the go-to. So as I said earlier, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So finding your niche is really, really key. And I think the last thing I'd say would be hiring before you need it. And again, I touched on this before. You're a high dollar value person as a broker. So if you're spending time on $5 tasks when you should be spending time on a $300 per hour task, then you're doing it wrong. So back yourself and get that assistant. That's how I probably end. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Julian Choo, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story here on the Advisor Podcast Network. And best of luck for all your plans for the future. We look forward to seeing your broking career take off.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
If you've got any questions for me or for Julian, then do feel free to reach out. You can reach me at editor@theadvisor.com.au. Come along as well to some of our events if you want to come and find out more about what you can be doing to grow your business. We've got the SME Bootcamp coming up in September in Brisbane, Melbourne, in Queensland, Victoria and New South Wales in September, looking at how you can be diversifying into business finance, how to read business financials, looking at P&L statements, and what kind of other offerings are out there for you as a broker. If not that, then of course come to the ABAs in August. At the end of August, we are doing our national award program, the Australian Broking Awards, where we celebrate the best in the nation, following on from our BBAs, the Better Business Awards, earlier this year. We hope you have a fab week, and we'll catch you next time for another episode on the Advisor Podcast Network.